Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club Podcast, where every month we deep dive into a different aspect of cinema, directors, genres, actors, or franchises. It doesn't matter, because it's always fun at the Film Club. I'm Dean.
I'm Becky.
And this week we are this week we are wrapping up Campy Cult Musical March. Jeez, that's a long title.
Or Musical March.
Musical March, whatever you want to talk it. But this week, what movie are we watching?
We're talking about Little Shop of Horrors, and we have a guest.
Yes, we do.
Hello.
Is it you we're looking for?
Is it me you're looking for? This is Randy.
I could see it in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I could feel it in his thighs.
Jesus.
The brother of the podcast is back.
This is why we bring Randy on, because he'll sing and dance the entire episode for us.
Not very well.
Not very well, but he'll do it. And also, Little Shop of Horrors is like one of your favorite movies of all time.
Oh yeah, it is like my first movie that I saw, and I was like, this is my favorite movie. And then it's been that way for a long time.
Randy's like, I saw this at 5 and was like, this is a perfect movie. It's been over 20 years since then, and nothing's really topped it, like gotten close.
No, I mean, some things nowadays I would consider maybe like a better movie, but I mean, it's a very comfort movie for me.
That's a good way to describe it, because watching it for this, I don't think I've seen it in like years, but watching it was a very going right back to like, little kid watching the movie in, grandma's living room, and it's such a comfortable movie to watch. But Becky, when was the last time you saw Little Shop?
Oh, it was ye old 90s.
What the fuck? So it has been like over 20 years since you've seen Little Shop.
It's been a really long time.
That is fascinating.
It's a thing.
Well, I know it's a thing, but you like Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
You generally like musicals and stuff, and this has a very campy classic aesthetic that generally you kind of like. I'm surprised you haven't. This isn't like in the rotation. Watch it a bunch.
I don't even own a copy of it.
Wow.
I'm like, I think I used to have it on VHS, but don't have it on DVD. It's one of those things where I'd catch it on TV every now and then. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm at the end of the movie, the middle of the movie. But sitting down and watching it through and through, yeah, it's been since the 90s.
Wow.
But it's like, I still know all the music. I know what's happening. It's just one of those movies. It's so iconic. It's so big that it's like, you can't not know about it.
It is...
I don't know if it's that like big, but I mean, if you've heard about it, it kind of sticks with you a little bit because the songs are very, very catchy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's something that's interesting, because this is wrapping up Musical March, right? We've talked about Phantom of the Paradise, which the music in Phantom's not very catchy. It's like interesting, but the movie is more like interesting than the music.
Yeah.
Rocky Horror is like good music, but the movie itself is like makes no goddamn sense. This one, the music's hella catchy, and the movie's also like really, really good.
I think the thing about Phantom of the Paradise is that you can't separate the music from the movie. They are intertwined. They are one of the same.
Yeah.
You can't just like listen to the soundtrack without the movie.
Yeah.
And the movie without the soundtrack. I don't know about that one either.
It's true. Yeah, but it is interesting because this movie, all the songs are like so catchy, and they're all very like Broadway theater. We're telling the story of the movie as like the songs, but like they actually have like verse, chorus, the good catchy beat. You can sing along to these pretty well. But Little Shop of Horrors is just also one of the greatest musicals of all time. So it was neither here nor there.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Pretty solid. Pretty solid. Top 5. Easily.
I mean, it has Rick Moranis in it.
It has Rick Moranis, and I would argue is one of his most famous roles. It's like this and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like between those two movies, depending on who you talk to. And this movie's also just jammed packed with like cameos from famous comedians, famous actors.
Lots of SNL in this movie.
Lots of SNL alums in this movie. But before we go too deep into that, I wanted to mention this because I didn't know if Randy knew this. So the director Frank Oz, is that name familiar to you in any way?
It like Dr. Oz or some shit?
No. He was a very famous puppeteer, or you can also call him a Muppeteer. He worked with Jim Henson. He is the voice of Fozzie Bear, and also he is Yoda.
Oh, he's Yoda.
He is the puppeteer for Yoda and also the voice of Yoda, and has been since
cool.
the original Star Wars. This is his third directorial effort. The first one was the Muppets movie, then the Muppets Take Manhattan, and then he was like, Little Shop of Horrors, that's gonna be my pick for my next big movie picture.
Audrey 2 takes over the world.
Was he a fan of the
stage musical?
No, what's his name? The other director that did this movie.
Oh, Roger Corman?
Roger Corman. Was he a fan of Roger Corman's version of this movie?
A lot of people were, yeah. I mean, okay, that's another interesting thing, because this is based off of a Broadway or an off-Broadway musical that is based off of an old Roger Corman movie. That is a very weird and interesting history.
Yeah, I think it'd be the other way around, but I mean, it's the way it goes.
It's the way it goes. But also that goes into something that is a leftover from me and Randy's old ancient podcast from the long, long ago, is Roger Corman is the Forrest Gump of cinema. He is connected to every film in one way or another. Roger Corman has his hands in it somewhere.
You can play 6 Degrees to Kevin Bacon. You can also play 6 Degrees to Roger Corman.
It's not that hard. But the original Little Shop of Horrors was from 1960. I think it's the third movie that Jack Nicholson was ever in. He plays like the Bill Murray part.
Oh, okay.
And so he's only in it for like 5 minutes. But that movie was made in like 2 days, because Roger Corman, or a rule was being changed with royalties, and Roger Corman's like, well, I need to get a movie out, so I'm still on the old rules, so I don't have to pay anybody royalties on my movies. So filmed it in 2 days, got it released, and it's like 60 minutes, I think. It's not very long.
Okay.
And then, people saw that and was like, what if we made a catchy-ass doo-wop, musical score to this, and it went on Broadway, wildly successful, and they were like, Warner Brothers, like, let's give the most money to any musical in our studio's history to turn this into a movie musical.
Wait, up to that point or even since?
Up to that point, I believe. But the budget for this was actually kind of a lot, I believe.
Really? It didn't seem like that watching the movie, I won't lie.
All that puppetry.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, the budget for this in 1986 was $25 million.
Wow.
Which is that's not a small budget for 1986. That's and this was supposed to be a big feature summer blockbuster. This was going to be a Warner Brothers tentpole movie. And then something with the ending happened that ruined all of that shit. But we will get into it. But let's tell everyone what Little Shop of Horrors is actually about. I have the back of the box here. Business blooms at Mushnik's flower shop when a exotic there we go, I found it.
ESL moment.
Yeah. When an exotic potted plant called Audrey 2 arrives, it turns out to be a carnivorous, mean green mother from outer space, filling that little shop with lots of horrors. Lots of terror. Little Shop of Horrors first flowered in a low-budget 1960s Roger Corman movie, resprouted as a smash 1980s off-Broadway musical, and now it comes full circle in this 1986 movie musical adaptation of the stage hit, with a score by multiple Academy Award winners Alan Menken and Howard Ashman. All-star comedy pros, DVD extras, so on and so forth. But But yeah, this whole movie is it's just a fun monster movie that has a lot of sweet love stories and aw shucks characters. But do we want to?
I can't help but notice that strange and interesting plant in the window.
I'm surprised you didn't bring your Audrey 2 with you today.
Oh, I forgot. Well, I mean, it's not like the audience can see that I have a little plant, but yeah.
Well, we would take pictures.
Yeah, we would take pictures.
You know the best part about that guy who's like, what a strange and interesting plant that is? That's Christopher Guest. That's the guy from fucking Spinal Tap.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's Sir Christopher Guest, because he's literally a lord.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think he's Jamie Lee Curtis's husband, but whatever, we won't get into that.
Yes.
Whole thing. But yeah, Little Shop of Horrors, this movie's fucking great. And it opens with some of the funniest Ed Wood-esque voiceover intro where it's not too long ago at the beginning of this decade, a strange thing occurred. And it's got
the text scroll.
The text scroll it's fucking Star Wars. It's the neon green over space. And it's just It's
it's
wonderful.
Not over space. All right, Dan. It's revealed to be actually a puddle.
Up.
A puddle on Skid Row.
On Skid Row, and we get to meet the three girls, the Greek chorus, Crystal, Ronette, and Chiffon. Yes. singing the theme to the movie, Little Shop of Horrors, and it is just lovely.
It's so good. I wish more. I don't know like how other movies would fit it in, but I wish we had more of the like Greek chorus. You know, like the
muses,
like the muses from Hercules,
Yeah.
or like the. They have like a name, don't they? Like the Ronettes. It's not the Ronettes, but I don't know what they're called in this movie.
I don't know either. I just know that like they are perfect for
They're
this.
so good.
They are so good, and they come up throughout the movie, and it is kind of interesting that they're literally a Greek chorus. Like they just like
they guide us.
They guide us. They kind of narrate what's going on, and they exist both as like these omnipotent presences and also as like actual characters on Skid Row.
Yeah,
but it's also like cues us in. This is kind of a Greek tragedy, is what we're watching.
Yeah.
Until the ending changes, but we'll get into that. But yeah, they get to sing Little Shop of Horrors, and this is just like, I wish every movie opened with a theme song sung by these three women.
It's so good.
It's so good. Little shop of horrors, little shop of terrors, watch them drop. I love it. Love it.
Whoa.
I would love it to be like, no country for old men.
Shut the
all of
fuck
it.
up.
There will blood. All of it. Every movie needs to open with these three women just banging out a banger on these. But it's they do their little intro, and we get the full vibe of this movie,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's big, it's tongue-in-cheek, it's even Skid Row looks kind of like a Broadway stagey thing, like the backgrounds are all painted. And we get to go into Mr. Mushnik's plant shop, and we get to
flower
meet
shop.
the flower. It's a flower shop. It's upscale. It's fancy.
Upscale
in Skid
fancy. I mean, I guess for Skid Row.
For Skid Row,
Mr. Mushnik is struggling.
he's on that
It's a
struggle.
little dark in that shop.
He's on that struggle diet. But we get to meet Seymour and Audrey and Mr. Mushnik and the failing awful flower shop, and how we're gonna describe Seymour, Audrey, Mushnik when we first see them. Like Seymour's kind of this like down on his luck, clumsy putz, right? And Mushnik is a stereotype a little bit, but he's fun.
He's like a slimy kind of businessman.
Yeah, like
He's also Cher's dad in Moonstruck.
Oh yeah, he is Cher's dad in Moonstruck.
And he also is kind of a little slimy in Moonstruck, so
that man knew his character, and he's like, I'm leaning in to my character choices. All right, I'm a character actor. I play slimy. And then also Audrey, who is played by Ellen Greene, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she was the original Audrey for the Broadway musical, I believe.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and
I mean, she's the one with the singing chops in the movie.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Well, we'll get there.
We'll get into that. It's gonna be big. But it's something interesting because I think Ellen Greene is like she's the only Audrey. Like she's the only person who could play Audrey. But I saw who else could almost got the role because they didn't want her for it. Mostly because she was like, I did it on Broadway for like a couple years. I don't really want to be in the movies. I'm not a movie star. And they were like, all right, whatever. Cyndi Lauper.
Whoa.
Anyone? Cyndi Lauper was almost Audrey, but they were like, let's try for a bigger name because Rick Moranis isn't gonna sell it. I don't know. I got it. Barbra Streisand.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Yeah.
The studio hounded Barbra Streisand to be in this as Audrey, right? And this is 1986 Barbra Streisand, so like still one of the most famous women on the planet, but this isn't like young, like the young pop star kind of Barbra Streisand, right?
Yeah.
But like Cyndi Lauper, okay, like young pop star kind of thing.
That could really work.
It could have worked. My only issue is I would see Cyndi Lauper as Audrey, and I'd be like, girls just wanna have. I would not be able to take myself out of that for the movie. But eventually, like Frank Oz was like, I saw her do it on Broadway, and there's literally no one else that could do this part better than her. And she puts on a very lovely accent for the movie.
It's good. It's good. It's even
unique.
better when she drops it later.
Oh.
Where did it go?
How would you describe this accent?
She's from Jersey.
She's from Jersey.
Yep.
I can't get my voice high enough to do a good Audrey impression. I'm sorry.
Oh my god, it is so high.
and we get like a lot of context that like Seymour's, really like, also like really in love with Audrey, and Audrey's like kind of into Seymour, but she has, her rough times with her boyfriend.
She walks into a lot of doors.
She walks into a lot of doors and cabinets, but her
fall down a lot of stairs.
But her boyfriend's a real professional. He makes good money.
What kind of professional wears a leather jacket and drives a motorcycle?
The leader of the pack.
We'll get into that. Because like right when we meet all of them, when we see how kind of down on their luck their situation is, we get, okay, and I'm gonna say this right now, the greatest song of this movie, the fucking hardest like banger of this entire film, Skid Row, Downtown.
Oh, you're gonna go with Skid Row is the best.
Okay, I'm getting to the end, but Skid Row is easily in my top 3. Easily in my top 3.
Okay.
Easily. We're gonna get to the end, but like,
are you gonna do
good.
what you did last week with what's the best song and what's the worst song?
Yes,
okay,
of course. Well, it's best song and like for this movie and like Rocky Horror last week, it's what's like the least good one.
Because I mean, you did it for my favorite, so I think you're gonna have to do it for your favorite.
I'm going to have to, and it's gonna hurt my soul.
Mm-hmm.
But we get Skid Row, and like this is the
Broadway,
yes,
right?
Yes.
The whole town, or I guess Skid Row, comes together, does the chorus or whatever.
Everyone's pissed off.
Everyone's angry, and they're all singing about like real shit, like
their strife.
Yeah.
I gotta get up at fucking 6 a.m., ride the subway to Uptown, like serve a bunch of assholes. I can only eat lunch at a hot dog cart, and I gotta ride the subway all the way back to
come home to Skid Row.
And like Skid Row's a little like elevated in this movie, right? Like it's not like an accurate representation of the awful like livings of like some like urban life, but it's kind of scummy.
I don't know, Dean. It looks better than actual Skid Row.
Yes.
I don't know where you're going with this.
It's like Sesame Street Skid Row.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sesame Street Skid Row.
Sesame Street Skid Row. That's also like a weird thing because I don't know where this movie's supposed to take place.
It's got to be New York. They're all walk-up brownstones and shit.
Right? It's like New York, Chicago. Because the original Roger Corman one was like California. Because I think there's a plot point in it where they were like, oh, we got to do this before the Rose Bowl. Like they talked about the Rose Bowl in the original Roger Corman one. But in this one, they're talking about like snow and all this stuff.
Yeah, so it's, back east.
Yeah, it's back east somewhere.
They're just like, we'll get this shit out of California. Right, Little Shop, you're too good for California. Let's get you out of here.
Because the Skid Row would have been too bad if it was still set in California.
They decided to shoot it on location, and they're like, nah.
Oh, man.
Oh Lord. But yeah, great opening number, and then
what's the best part about the opening number of Skid Row, Dean?
Okay, it's this one guy, and they're all doing the thing where it's like down on Skid, down on like all that, and there's this one dude, I don't know his name. He's like the skinny, like tall black guy, and he just kicks the shit out of this trash can and yells with like one of the, like a guttural primal down on Skid, and it is one of the best parts of the entire song, and
it is pretty good.
It is so good.
I don't know why it sticks out as being so good, but I think he conveys like a bit of passion in his voice. All the rest of the people are kind of giving a performance. This guy knows. He knows.
Exactly. And the thing is about that one dude in the entire song, I'm like, Frank Oz probably told him, hey buddy, you're going to be on screen for 5 seconds to get your one shot. And he's like, I'm going to give my Oscar performance in this. How many lines do I have? One. All I need to cement myself in cinema history. And to me, he did.
And he knew what he was doing, because that was one of the hardest things to obtain for this movie, were the garbage cans.
Really?
Yes, it was a thing where they wanted, it to look very New York, very authentic to what we would see on Skid Row. And that was the hardest thing for them to find, was the garbage cans.
Was the like really crappy like tin,
that old school garbage cans.
The same thing that you've been looking for your movie. So see, even Little Shop had a hard time finding the garbage cans.
Little Shop of Horrors, pure Kino. But after that, we finally get, Mr. Mushnik saying, I'm closing up shop. Business is over. This place is kaputnik. And then Seymour has an idea with a very strange and interesting plant
to put in the window.
To drum up business, which works. And we find out where he found Audrey 2 when Christopher Guest comes in and is like, where'd you get such a fine and interesting plant?
It is so good.
It is.
His performance is so good.
Because it's all like wide-eyed howdy doody, and his voice, his vocal performance, how he sounds, just I don't even know how to describe how he sounds. It's so weird.
Well, I think the whole point is that it's a very tongue-in-cheek, like that he's like inserting himself into like this is like the Deus Ex Machina of the movie, and it's very tongue-in-cheek about that, being like, oh yeah, this guy just shows up and he's like, oh, you know, can I buy $50 worth of roses because you put the plant in the window?
Can't break 100.
Oh, I can't break 100. Sorry. Well, I guess I'll have to have double then.
I guess I'll have twice as many roses.
Also, one guy
it is so good.
And it's a thing where it's like the movie has these like kind of callbacks to like those Ed Wood 50s, 60s like B movie aesthetics, and his like Christopher Guest's performance is literally like well, I'm the local theater actor of, you know, Minnesota High, and I've got my big movie break. Hello there, Johnny.
My name is Troy McClure.
Hello, my name is Troy McClure. Where'd you get that fine, interesting plant there, Jimmy? He's kind of playing into he's playing into that kind of performance, that gag work, and it's fucking great. But then we get to learn where they found Audrey 2 in Daru. I was, you know, because there was a total eclipse of the sun.
A total eclipse of the sun. And it got very dark.
And
turn around.
Every now and then I get a little.
That's not in the movie.
That's not in the movie.
Damn it.
Yeah.
It was the 80s.
We're gonna get into what this movie lost to, all right? Because oh Lord, there were some bangers this year. But you know, we get to see that how Seymour found Audrey 2. He went to the, you know, old Chinatown.
No, he went to the wholesale flower district.
Yes, he
did.
And he went to Mr. Chang's.
And he was like, they didn't have anything there I wanted. And then when Seymour was walking away, he saw a doo-wop group just getting jiggy with it, and he just kind of tried to slide into
he tries to join there's like 5 guys like doing like the
doo-wop like
doo-wop,
snap thing going doo-da-da-doo. And then
he just slides in to join them when the eclipse happens.
And then a bolt of green light happens, and he's like, there's this weird and interesting plant, and I bought it for $1.95.
Daru.
and it's great because that is like very tongue-in-cheek, very fun. But it drums up business, and everyone's like coming in. We get the reprise of Little Shop. Everyone's making money, fat stacks. Mr. Mushnik's like, I'm finally rich. Audrey's like, this is wonderful. Seymour's like, my plant's dying. And
Audrey 2's like, feed me.
Feed me.
Well, not there yet.
We're getting there.
Audrey's thinking about it.
Audrey 2's thinking about it.
Audrey 2's thinking about it.
They changed it. It used to be Audrey Jr. Now it's Audrey 2. But they go, and Seymour has to stay with Audrey 2 and try and figure it out. And he's trying to figure out, you know, what it will feed on. And it will feed on only human blood.
I mean, we have a whole song that explains this.
I mean, grow for me.
Grow for me.
How does it go, Randy? I've given you sunshine. I've given you dirt. All that you've given is heartache and hurt.
I mean, you skipped the part about potash. We won't get into
that.
I mean, this is from memory. Which it's another one of those songs that's like really catchy, nice ballady, and it's just like all plot exposition.
Yeah, because you know he's explaining basically how he's tried everything to make the plant grow, and he can't find anything to do, and then he's throwing away some trash, and ooh, dang roses, dang thorns, cuts himself on it, and the plant opens up, because the plant, I mean, if anybody doesn't know, the plant basically looks like a giant fat Venus flytrap.
Yeah.
And he's sucking on his thumb, and that's when Audrey 2,
Yeah, he's like holding his hand out to the plant, and it snaps at his hand, and he's like holds out his not cut hand, and the plant like upturns its face at him.
He's like, you plebeian.
It's like, I won't be having any of that. And, figures out that Audrey 2 drinks blood.
Audrey 2's a vampire. A vampire.
A vampire. And then, he feeds it, and then he's like, oh, grow for me, and then leaves, and then we get to see some really cool effect where we get to see the potted plant actually grow on camera, and then it starts dawning on me that this movie probably took so much goddamn work.
Oh, yeah.
Especially once the plant gets bigger and Audrey 2 starts, like,
moving around and
moving
stuff.
its thing and doing its thing.
Yeah. Is everything here practical, Dean?
Oh yes, yeah. There is there's
no CG.
Frank Oz made a point. There's no CG. There's no compositing. Everything you see with Audrey 2 is in-camera practical effects. Even the growing thing, there's no compositing, nothing. It's all stop motion or real live-action puppetry, which is insane, especially when we get to the singing parts. Oh, Lord. But we get to see, Audrey 2 is growing up real fast. And from here, we learn of Audrey's desire to leave Skid Row.
To go somewhere that's green.
Somewhere that's green.
Yeah.
And, because she wants to get away from her abusive boyfriend and, run away with Seymour. But it's somewhere that's green.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very cute song.
It's a cutesy homage to the 1950s quote unquote ideal, white picket fence,
Tupperware parties.
Everybody's wearing dresses. They're watching Howdy Doody, or they're playing Howdy Doody and watching Lucy.
I Love Lucy
on a big 10-inch screen.
On a big enormous 12-inch
Oh yeah,
screen.
that's what it is.
It is really funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's even funnier in the context of this taking it being filmed in the Reagan 80s, where
Yes.
the whole thing Reagan was we're gonna go back to that old 1950s morality, real consumerism, all that stuff. And Audrey's idealized world is that nostalgia that was really big in that 1980s era.
It's the bee's knees.
It's the bee's knees.
She's reading Better Home and Gardens, and
It's funny that her dream world is the kind of thing that you would see in a Better Home and Gardens magazine.
Yes.
And how people now would look at as being bro, that didn't exist, right? That's just not real. What are you, fucking dumb? And I'm
Dean, Audrey's not the smartest. Shit.
She's
Again,
sweet.
A lot of
She's a
walking into
sweet lady.
doors.
A lot of walking into doors.
She's a sweet gal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a well done song. It's the first song we get Audrey on her own.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we get to hear some of her singing and stuff in Skid Row, but this is oh no, she has a really good voice. She can really work up a good tune and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't her showstopper yet. We're gonna get to that.
We're
there.
We're gonna get there. But we also find out why she wants to leave Skid Row, to get away from her abusive boyfriend Orin Scrivelli, DDS,
Yes.
who we find out is
The leader of the pack.
oh, look at him suck up that gas.
Oh my god.
He is a dentist.
Yes.
He is a masochist, or
A sadistic.
a
dentist.
sadistic. He's a sadistic dentist.
Played by
A literal sadist.
played by Steve Martin.
Yes, and it's so fucking
It
good.
is so good. So how are we okay? Because we open up with the whole thing, Audrey comes in and she's oh sorry, I got tied, I got tied up,
or maybe a little handcuff.
no, what is it, she comes in, Mushnik's what happened, Audrey, did you get tied up or something? He's no, just a little handcuffed.
Oh yeah, that's what she says.
And her arm's in a sling. She always comes in with black eyes and whatnot. And Mushnik's blah, 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 why are you doing this? And she's well, at least he's a professional.
He's a professional.
What kind of professional drives a motorcycle and wears a leather jacket? And we just hard cut.
Hard cut to him riding a motorcycle with a leather jacket.
And it's fucking Steve Martin.
I love his motorcycle.
It's so good.
It fucking flies.
It hasn't flown yet. Okay, we'll get there.
It parks on its own.
Yes, it parks on its own. He just slows down and gets up off of it, and he does a little Elvis pose, and it stops on its own.
And we get Steve Martin just
chewing it up,
going full all the way to the hilt boogie, and just chewing this number
punching
up.
nurses.
Yes, just hamming it up hard.
Oh, it is
So
wild.
fucking good.
It is so wild. Also,
Beating up the clients.
So over the top.
Yeah. Also, I think that the dentist is original to to this movie.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's in the stage play. I don't think. I'd have to look.
Mhm.
But it's fucking wonderful.
It is so good.
Is
I'm pretty sure the dentist in this movie is responsible for at least like some people's fear of dentists.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Easily, just because he's such a sadist.
I know that they did test audiences for the movie, and originally his office was like very Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like blood spatter.
Oh,
It was a complete disaster, and people were terrified, and they're like, okay, we gotta
clean it up.
We gotta make it very sterile, so it's just, it doesn't look scary, but he walks in and it's like, oh fuck, we're all dead.
He's got clients hanging to the ceiling.
He punches his nurse. I love that like quick shot of him supposed to. He does like a pelvic thrust like he's Elvis on stage, and just his hand just shoots out and knocks a nurse unconscious, and then spins around and walks into his office. It is great. Also, I love the part where he's like going in with a giant drill, and we're inside a guy's mouth.
Inside the guy's mouth, yeah.
Yeah, I found
out.
Very
cool shot.
I found out that they actually just built a giant mouth and a giant drill, and just had him like superimposed in there. Yeah. So I'm like, so there's just like a giant 12-foot tall mouth somewhere with an accompanying 12-foot tall drill. And that hasn't been used in other movies? What is this?
And the girl that walks out with the full like headgear that she's trying to speak, that's actually Jim Henson's daughter.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
So see, you have the veterans of Jim Henson's team working on this, and then you're like, let's throw her in there too.
And to think she would grow up to be Ryan Gosling.
You just love Ryan Gosling.
Well, that's the joke. Like,
what the fuck is that?
That was.
What the fuck is that? He made that same joke when we were watching the movie, and I thought Dean was just having like an episode.
No,
he forgot to take his meds or something.
That's like a joke.
This is his joke.
That was a joke that I think okay, it's like an in-joke with like me and Sis, who was on last week's podcast, right? But we watched like Addams Family or whatever like a couple of months ago, and she was just like, going through the movie, and every time a kid or something in the movie would show up, it'd be like, that kid grew up to be Ryan Gosling, or like Pugsley was like, man, did you know that kid grew up to be Chris Hemsworth? And that was just the bit. Every time we'd see like a kid, it'd be like, that kid grew up to be X character.
I don't know. You thought the dude from Sunrise looked like Ryan Gosling.
He does look like Ryan Gosling, and I will not get off this. At
certain angles, he kind of looks like him.
I will not get off this. All right.
Man, Ryan Gosling's a beautiful man, so we can't knock you there.
You just like La La Land. But
and Barbie.
Also, is it weird to see Steve Martin with
dark
white hair?
Yes.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
I didn't. Yeah, it is a little bit weird.
Randy's like, this is how I envision Steve Martin. His hair's not jet black, and he doesn't ride around in a motorcycle
yeah,
with
exactly.
a jacket.
This is how I envision Steve Martin.
People are like, Steve Martin, the jerk, parent, yeah, I guess he's in Little Shop of Horrors. Randy's like, wait, he's in other movies?
He's in other. I only know The Jerk and Little Shop.
But while we get the whole.
Can I say it? Can I say it?
What?
I was born a black child.
The Jerk is hilarious, but that fun fact, The Jerk, one of Stanley Kubrick's favorite movies. He almost cast Steve Martin in Eyes Wide Shut in the Tom Cruise role. More you know.
That would have been weird.
That was also he wanted to do it back in like the 80s or the 70s. Really weird, but more you know.
All right, we'll have to cut that out.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, so while we get the whole dentist thing back at the shop, we get to see what happens with Seymour feeding Audrey to his own blood in the beautiful song "Some Fun Now." Hot damn, he's having some fun now.
Oh boy,
he's having some fun now.
Is that after he goes on the talk show?
I believe
Some Fun, I think, is after the talk show.
Oh yes, we
haven't talked about the talk show.
Oh no, you're right.
Where he goes on the
weird.
What existed before podcasts?
Yes.
Oh,
the radio talk shows.
Oh Lord, being hosted by weird radio host
John Candy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
On the what is it? The Weird Wink Wilkinson.
Yes,
show?
Weird Wink Wilkinson.
And where that guy is not earning enough for everything that he puts into that radio show.
Oh God! Like,
let me just crack my neck here.
Oh God! What are you doing in here? Oh, lady, please put your clothes back on. What if your husband walked in? I'm right here, Wink. Don't.
I'm right here, Wink. Oh no, he's got a gun.
Oh no! I'm hit. I'm dying. Oh, I feel so very weird. That.
So fucking good.
So good. And that's one of those things where it's like, if you cast John Candy in a movie, give him 5 minutes and he'll steal the show.
Mm-hmm.
Give him 5 minutes, he'll steal the show. Because Also
He
the
also
lead.
glossed over the part where Audrey 2 tries to take a bite out of a woman's ass.
Yes.
Audrey 2 might eat a little ass. Okay. Because the scene opens, we're in the waiting room of the radio shop or the radio show, right? And we have the nun or the short man with the ventriloquist nun. We have the woman with the chained up box, and we have the old man dressed as a flying man.
Yes.
In like a Da Vinci era flight suit.
Yes.
And then there's Seymour there with the potted plant, and it is great shtick.
It's good.
Audrey's looking around. He's like, "Hey man, what's going on?
The best,
Ooh, look at that girl."
The best is that he looks over at the girl with like the red, like blood colored skirt, and he like looks at her, and then he looks back at Seymour and sees Seymour's not looking. I thought the best is that Audrey doesn't have eyes, or Audrey 2 doesn't have eyes, but it has to look back at Seymour to see if he's looking. It's so
Audrey
good.
too. It's like he has a lot of personality.
He really does.
No eyes, but it's like you can see what he's thinking about.
It's kind of the magic of Frank Oz's direction, because you got to think about it. Frank Oz was on the Muppets for years and years and years, and he's worked with puppets for years and years and years. The whole reason he wanted to do Little Shop of Horrors is because when he like saw the stage play and read the script or whatever, he's like, there's a lot of interesting things we can do with like puppetry, and he just instinctively knew like, well, if you make the plant do like tilt its head like this or do that or do whatever,
it'll express itself.
It's expressive. He's like,
Audrey 2 hasn't started talking yet.
No. It's all looks and movements or whatever. Or look, like it doesn't have eyes, but you know what I mean. But like that's kind of like the mastery is he knows how to make an inanimate object have emotions. And right now, Audrey wants to take a little bite out of some ass. But Seymour figures this out. I was like, no, bad, Audrey, bad.
It's like pulling the plant back.
And then he goes on to the show, and Wink Wilkinson's like, man, where'd you get such a strange, unusual plant?
And he goes, well, there's a total eclipse of the sun. Baru.
And you think it's about to go back into the song again, but it's just the first beat, and we cut right back out of it. Yep. Oh God! And then we get, I believe this is where we get the whole, some fun now,
because he's like becoming famous. When people want to get interviews and have him on talk shows and
about the plan. It's being successful, but he has to, feed, Audrey to all this blood. And when he's throwing out the trash later that night, and Audrey's leaving, that's when he finally gets to meet Orin Scrivelli. DDS. Sorry, Doctor Orin Scrivelli.
Sorry, Doctor.
And this is when we get to see that his motorcycle is magic, and he flies in.
Yeah, he flies into screen.
And he is also addicted to the gas.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Very much so.
It's a gas. And...
Gas.
Sure. Whatever.
I know you guys wouldn't get that reference.
Not even a little bit. And... we get to understand that, like, okay, Orin Scrivelli is a bastard. Okay, Seymour's the good guy. Audrey's like, I can't leave him because he's, that would hurt me, and da-da-da-da-da. And, so on and so forth. And once they, like, ride off, which in one of the funniest things is, he gets on, he's like, get on. And she hops on the back like she's riding side saddle on a horse.
Yes.
And he's like, you still got the handcuffs? And she's like, they're in my purse. And then he flies back off
he
again.
Goes... and like rides off.
Cackles like the Wicked Witch of the West. Oh Lord. Steve Martin is perfect in this.
He's so fucking good.
Perfect. So they ride off, and then this is where we finally get to hear Audrey 2 asking Seymour to what?
Feed me.
To what?
Feed me.
Does it have to be human? Does it have to be mine?
Feed me, Seymour. Feed me all night long. You can do it. It's good.
It's great.
It's good.
So we finally get to hear Audrey to speak, and it is the voice of Levi Stubbs of the Four Tops. I believe his most famous song is Sugar Pie Honey Bunch.
Oh, Sugar Pie. I know that song, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
that's a banger.
Stone Cold banger. This is like one of the only like 2 movie things he's ever did. because like he was like the lead singer of the Four Tops, and they wanted to put.
So he was a little busy, maybe.
Yeah, very busy. Well, the other thing is he just refused to ever leave the band because people were like, "Hey, we want you, go solo. We want you to go and do this and that." And he's like, "No, I'm part of the Four Tops. Like I'm the Four Tops. Like that's what I like to do." But like, can we just go into the performance he's giving here?
He's so fucking good. He's so good.
Like, we have Rick Moranis here, who is like punching so fucking high above his weight class and giving one of the best performances of his career. We have Ellen Greene, literal Broadway level actress, reprising a role she originated and is killing it. And then we have Levi Stubbs, who's like, I'm not an actor, but god damn, do I have a voice of angels. And just fucking killing this whole movie. Also, Feed Me Seymour. Is that another like...
Feed Me Seymour is the best song in the movie.
Oh, Feed Me Seymour, best song in the movie.
I would have to say it's the best. It's also, I think, one of the longest songs.
It's pretty.
I don't know. I don't think we've like looked at like how long each song is, but I think Feed Me Seymour has like a break in the middle of it. Like
it does have a break because it kind of has a switch shift in it where it's like, first it's like Seymour is like, I don't want to. I don't know. Sorry. I don't know
if I can perform mutilations.
Woo, woo, woo. And because they have that back and forth, and then he's like trying to tempt him in. He's like, come on, do you want to date with Hedy Lamarr? You're going to get it. And then he's like, well, I wish I had a Harley machine running around like I was James Dean, making all the guys in the corner turn green. And you'll get it. Woo woo. God,
and then
it's just so easy to quote this movie.
It has the scene where the doctor and Audrey roll up on the motorcycle because Audrey's apartment is just like literally across the street.
Yeah, and we also have another great like moment where it's like, goddamn woman falling off the back of the motorcycle,
messing up
my hair,
messing up my hair. I'm sorry, doctor. I'm sorry.
And like it is like a
damn scatterbrain.
And we get to see like how rough and kind of like this is where it's like, okay, this movie is like really like dark comedy because like Audrey's really getting like roughed up and like
yeah, we get the silhouette of him smacking her, giving her a good schmacka, just like it's Streetcar Named Desire, it's the whole 9 yards. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this is like rough, and then it's like, well, then we get back to the song.
We get back to the song, and
you need blood, and he's got more than enough.
You need blood, and he's more than enough. He looks like plant food to me. And then it's like, it's also one of those things where it's like, Seymour's like, kill people and like to feed Audrey, but it's like, you're kind of okay him killing DDS, right?
The movie has worked up to this point to try and get you to believe that meek Seymour is going to kill people.
Yes. And you're also like, if he's going to kill anybody, Orange Scrivelli, DDS, start, Doctor Orange Scrivelli.
Sorry, Doctor.
You'd be okay with that. And so Seymour gets the gun. He's going to go into the dentist office and kill Dr. Orange Scrivelli, DDS. But before that, we get Dr. Scrivelli having a different patient.
Oh, yeah.
Such a
Bill
great
Murray,
scene.
Right?
Yeah.
Bill fucking Murray.
Bill Murray comes in and steals the show, like most of the guest stars on this.
Yes.
The only movie they've done together.
It's it. This is the only movie they've done together.
Steve Martin and Bill Murray?
Yeah. Which is
wow.
Fucking weird, right?
That is a little weird.
Because you would think like, okay, they were both like kind of famous around the same time. They were both comedy actors.
SNL the same time.
Yeah, they were both like big comedy actors throughout the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s now. And it's like they didn't have like a anything? Like this is it?
That's it.
But what is hilarious, very unlucky. But what is not unlucky is the just absolute peak Bill Murray we get in here, because I found this out. Everything Bill Murray says in this, he made up on the spot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it.
It's
so fucking good.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Yeah, and oh my god.
Yeah,
we get me a chocolate bar afterwards.
We get the meeting of a sadist and a masochist.
I love it because he's like,
when we first see him, he's like stand sitting on top of one of the chairs.
He looks like fucking L from Death Note, and he's
Yes,
just all
and he's
excited,
all
and
excited.
jittery. And then Jim Henson's daughter comes out,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh my God, what? Tell me everything he did to you." And she's like, "Oh," because he's got the fucking like saw trap on her face,
Yes,
and he's
literally.
like, "Well, you have to do that to remove the jaw."
Exactly.
He literally says you have to do that to remove the jaw, and I'm like, "What? What fresh hell is this? Oh God, no! My fear of dentists is kicking in." And then it's one of the funniest bits in the movie,
Mhm.
right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
He comes in, he's prepping himself, he's, pulling
He's
out.
giving like his whole dentistry life story of, oh, I went to this person and they recommended me to go to this person. Who's usually the person I go on these days. And
There's this great woman I go to. I mean, she's blind now, but if you talk loud enough, she can tell where the pain is. She'll find it eventually.
Mhm.
And I love. He's pulling out the little gauze and shoving them in his own mouth. He brought his own dental bib. And he's like,
he's adjusting the lights and everything. He's like,
he's prepping himself.
I also love when he looks over and he sees, Steve Martin pulling out more and more, like, these aren't dental tools, these are torture devices. And he's like, oh, doctor.
Oh,
Please.
no, the best is that he like sits up to look over at what he's pulling out, and he sees him take out like I don't know, it looks like some kind of extractor with like spikes all over it, and he like faints a little bit. He goes like, oh.
He comes over, he's getting the thing ready, and he's like open wide, and Bill Murray just goes, oh, like he's just like climaxing, and they go right in. And I love because how it's shot. You just have Bill Murray's hand come up on Steve Martin's like shoulder, and it's like, yes, candy bar, oh, because the whole context is like when he was a kid, he went to the dentist, and he's like, oh, got a little bit of pain, but he got a candy bar after. So now he's like, God, I want that candy bar so bad. Oh God, yes. That's the Bill Murray character now, and it is some of the funniest bits. And then eventually, Orange Scrivelli, DDS,
Gets fed up with this shit.
he's like, get out. He's like, but I was having such a wonderful time. and they kick him out, and it's like the whole bit. And I love how like Bill Murray tried to steal one of his tools.
Yes.
And
then as he's kicking out Bill Murray, he turns to Seymour, who's waiting in the waiting room for, to shoot the doctor, and goes, does this scare you? And he holds the tool he's just taken back from Bill Murray.
He's like, yes? Would you get scared if I got this and went right for your eater incisor? And he's like, yes. Get your ass in the chair.
Get your ass in the chair.
And it's the whole thing where now we get to see like another great bit where he's like, you know what'll happen to your teeth? You let them rot, and he clicks on like the little light X-ray thing, but it's just a picture of a nasty Rottweiler's mouth, and it's not a human
bat or something.
It's something like that. It's not like a human mouth. It's just a nasty mouth of like an animal. And he's like, you see that, Seymour? You do that. You eat too many chocolates. That's what's gonna happen to you. We're gonna need the good drill for this. And he gets the old drill. It's an antique.
Yeah.
It makes it sturdy, heavy.
There's rust on it.
There's rust on it. They don't make them like this anymore. It's like a foot pedal.
It's literally a foot pedal, and he's going at him. He's like, wait a minute. I'm gonna need gas for this.
I want to enjoy this.
And he gets the fucking Darth Vader mask on with the tanks, and it's just huffing that laughing gas. And now at this point, Seymour's doing self-defense. He pulled a gun out in self-defense. Right? There ain't a jury in the world that will convict him. And he's like, I love how like Steve Martin is like, well, why are you doing this? Because now Steve Martin's like trying to get the fucking gas tank off.
Well,
and
Steve Martin sees Seymour pull out a gun, and he starts laughing. He's like, he's gonna shoot me. Seymour's gonna shoot me.
I'm in trouble now.
I'm in trouble now. And he starts laughing around the room.
And he's like, oh, better turn this off. And he like yanks the valve off on accident. And now he's like ODing on the gas. And Seymour's like, I'm not gonna kill you, but I ain't gonna fucking help you. Just like Batman. And then, he dies. Well, but before he dies, he's like, what did I ever do to you? It's not what you did to me. It's what you did to her. He's like,
her who? Oh.
Great, just
And how like the little balloons like deflate dramatically when he dies.
It's so good. And then we get, Seymour is going to chop up Mr. Scrivelli and feed him to the plants. And does this, and it's a big old dramatic thing, and
Mushnik sees what happens.
He sees what happens. Dun, dun, dun.
He knows.
He
the
knows.
secret.
And then the next morning, I love how it cuts to the next morning, and we cut to a bed, and it's completely empty, and we just pan over a little bit, and it's just Rick Moranis there, just shaking in his chair, and in his
Shivering
pajamas,
like a chihuahua.
and just shivering, and I'm like, yeah, that is probably how I would react if I had to chop up Steve Martin and feed it to a giant carnivorous plant. I'd be a little, shaky, just a little bit. And then we get to see like Audrey is being talked to by the cops, and I think this is where we get Suddenly Seymour, right?
My opinion, the best song of the film.
So good.
I used to think it was the best song in the
It's
film.
very good.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very good. It's the thing where this is when we get to see Seymour and Audrey finally connect, have their love song, and this is like the mic drop.
Ellen Green's song.
This is like, and also it is amazing, like, because Rick Moranis isn't like a singer, right?
No, not really.
He's an actor, and he's like, a solid actor. He worked for years. He's been in a lot of great things, but he's like, he's like not a Broadway level, singer. He's not a rock star, right? Like even like Steve Martin, he sings in a band. But goddamn, in the Suddenly Seymour parts where Ellen Green is belting to the rafters, he is keeping up with her, which is astounding. But I mean, she's just fucking laying it out. Laying it out. When it's like Suddenly Seymour, and she belts it out like crazy. And what is astounding is she's going full voice, full volume. She still has the accent.
For most of it. She kind of like
she has to drop it at some point.
There's a crescendo, that happens where like she's getting like louder and louder and louder, like more belting. About halfway through that is where the accent kind of we can't do that anymore if we're gonna go this big.
I mean, it is still astounding how long she's able to hold it.
Correct.
But it is a very beautiful song.
It's very good. It's very, very good.
This was the one that I think the studio wanted to push the most as like a radio hit. Because this was the time where they were like, oh, movie soundtracks. Like, if one of them can catch on, like that'll like help the movie. But they were like, can we change it to Suddenly Someone? So that it could be, more like universal.
Yeah.
And
like, no.
Frank Oz and the composers, this is awful because the music composers are gonna be real fucking important in a minute. Miles Goodman and Alan Menken, they like straight up said, no, it is Suddenly Seymour. I will sue you if you try and change it to Suddenly Someone. They were like, okay, cool, whatever. But they did the whole thing, and it's a really just good song.
It's a really good, really beautiful song, where they like finally come together and they realize that they've been there the whole time.
And it's a thing where it's also like more development on Audrey's character.
Yes.
Because she's like, how I met him? I was working at this nightclub that wasn't like so nice, and how I dressed wasn't so ladylike, and it's like the context is she was like was it like a stripper, or she was working at like a rundown bar,
like a rundown Hooters type,
like a rundown Hooters kind of deal, and she's like, I'm not good enough for you, and Seymour's like, it doesn't matter, I love you for who you are, like I'm here beside you, and she's like, suddenly, and it's a very beautiful song, and it's Seymour, stand-up guy. So he murdered a dude. Stand-up guy.
So he murdered her boyfriend,
It's
the way it goes.
It's the way it goes. Greek tragedy, It's fine. But then after this is, oh god, we get a lot of like things happening very quickly, because I think after this is Meek shall inherit the earth, where he has this huge rise up to the top. He gets like cover of magazines. He's gonna have his own show. He's gonna be the Bob Ross but of plants.
And Mushnik gets eaten.
Oh, yep, Mushniks gets eaten. You're right, because this is right around because was it Audrey and Seymour have their song, and then he goes back to the shop, and then Mushnik is like confronts him, and he wants Seymour to run out. Because he's like, look, you tell me how to take care of the plant, it'll be fine. You go lay low for 30, 40 years, it'll be fine. I love how he says that. He's like, go lay low 30, 40 years, let it blow over. You'll be fine. And I'm like, wait like 2 weeks, my guy. 2 weeks tops. No one likes the dentist. And Seymour doesn't kill Mushnik, but he kind of
helps Audrey.
Helps Audrey, right? Like
helps Audrey too. I mean, helps Audrey to kill Mushnik.
Yeah, and also I love because this is where the chorus girls come back in, and they're just like, "Come on, come on." They just step out of the darkness, and they're just like, "Come on, come on," and it's so like atmospheric. It's so creepy. This is like, you know, Little Shop of Horrors. This is like a nice horror moment of it, and Audrey's like, "Come on, feed me. Come on, get here, get over here. Come on, get over here. Get to Jack." And it's just munch. But Audrey too eats Mushnik, and now Seymour, king of the castle, big on top. He gets, you know, we get the song, "Meek shall inherit the earth," where it's, you know, everyone's like, oh, you know, Seymour, he's gonna get his stuff. And sorry, I'm gonna bring up the musical number so I make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, cool, yeah. So after that, it's, you know, supper time, with Seymour and Audrey now want to like leave. They're like, you know, this is too big for us, but Seymour's like, I can go on TV tomorrow, you know, sell the plant, sell the shop or whatever, and we can go somewhere. And she's like, somewhere that's green? That's right, Audrey. Somewhere that's green. Because they're going to go get married, and it's going to be, you know, big, beautiful, happy ending. But this is Little Shop of Horrors. There are no happy endings. So Seymour's trying to leave, and why he doesn't run out the back door, I will never know. He's like, I'm going to go through the front door.
Yes, for some reason, he wants to go out the front door.
Right past Audrey, tiptoeing like a...
Audrey
2, tiptoeing like a thief in the night through the plant shop. And then Audrey 2's like, Seymour, come on, feed me. He's like, I'm not going to feed you anymore. I'm done. He's like, well, feed me, Krelborn. God damn it. And he's like so angry about it now. And that's like nice to know that Audrey 2 is like, yeah, carnivorous plant, but is also like, no, he's like evil, like evil. It's not like, oh, feed me. This is the only thing I eat. It's like, no, motherfucker, like, come on, help me out here.
Come on,
you give me. And Seymour's like, fine, I'll go get you your, you know, some.
He's gonna get like steaks or something. He's gonna go to the butchery, you know, and get him something.
And Audrey 2 is like, well, don't do me no favors. And he goes and do that, and then Audrey 2 sees Audrey 1
across the street, through the window,
through the walls. And Audrey 2, we find out, can dial a telephone.
Can work a rotary telephone.
Can dial a rotary telephone.
Well, can also work a cash register to get the change you need to make a phone call.
I would like.
This is where the puppetry starts to get really crazy.
Yes, I love how we get to see this, because you probably know it took them 3 months to get this to a point where it's like, all right, Frankie, I can line this puppet arm up. It'll go up and around, up and open the cash register. I'll be able to get the dime. We won't have to glue it. I'll be able to pick it up, and you'll see it on camera in one continuous shot. And we'll take it over, put it into the telephone, and then we'll dial the rotary phone and a real phone number. It won't be some bullshit. And Frank Oz was like, yeah, okay, cool. We'll do it all in close-up. It'll be fine.
Don't forget the change.
And he checks after. So the plant calls Audrey to lure her to the shop to eat her. And after done calling her, it checks the phone for change. Which is amazing. I love
one of
the best little like gags they put in the movie.
And it's wonderful. But the best part of this whole bit, right, is that it's the fact that it just looks so fucking good. Like, I'm like, I cannot imagine them ever doing this now. Because they would just do it with a computer, and I'm like, no, a computer can never look this fucking good.
Well, that, and it's also Audrey 1's first time seeing Audrey 2.
Yes.
Well, first time seeing Audrey 2 be alive.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we've seen Audrey 2 continue to grow and grow, and now Audrey 2 is just taking up the entire shop. And now it's, you know, it's only been Seymour that, you know, has to talk and deal and negotiate with Audrey 2, but now Audrey 1 knows. And this is terrifying.
I like how Audrey 1 comes in and she's like, what's going on? And then Audrey 2 kind of like starts feeling her up a little bit. Like, he's like sizing her up. Skirt. And then she's like, and he's like, give me some water. I'm parched. I'm drying up. And then Audrey 2 gets the thing, and he's like, well, now it's supper time, and tries to like eat Audrey. And then this is when Seymour comes in, manages to like pull Audrey right out of the grasp of Audrey 2, right out of his mouth. And right here is where the movie splits.
Mm-hmm.
Because from this point on, there's the theatrical version and then the director's cut, the original ending.
Mm-hmm.
In the original ending, that I think is also in the stage production, Audrey dies here.
Mhm.
Like, they go out into the alley
Mhm.
and he's like, oh my god, Audrey, you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. And then she kind of like faints. She's supposed to like die there and be like, Seymour, feed me to Audrey too. And he's like, what? And he's like, if you feed me to him, then I'll be with him forever. Then I'll always be somewhere that's green. Like, one
Yeah.
of those things. And then
Like a real Greek tragedy.
like a real
Mhm.
Greek tragedy, right? And then that tested fucking awfully.
Mm-hmm.
Like, awful. Because what happens is Seymour feeds Audrey to, or
Mhm.
Audrey to Audrey 2, and then Audrey 2 like explodes, takes over the earth, and we get to see it basically doing the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man
Mhm.
from
Yes,
Ghostbusters
yes.
and just take over New York. But it tested awful. No one liked it. I think it was 13% of test audiences thought it was good. And they spent $5 million in 6 months reshooting the ending. And that pushed it from a summer release to a December release, which is probably why
Yeah.
the studio credited is that why this movie flopped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It would have done phenomenal as a summer blockbuster.
Yeah, well, it would have just done better. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know if it would have done well because Top Gun came out this same year.
Ooh.
Yeah, Rick Moranis, Tom Cruise, they're like on the same level. Maybe I don't know. Different movies.
Different movies, different audiences.
Different audiences. But that's kind of like one of those rough like
Yeah.
years, right?
Mhm.
No matter when you're releasing this, it's not going to be great. But it's also like fuck, having to push it back. All that marketing is probably like out the window now. It still made like 39 million against a $25 million budget, so it turned a profit, but it was like a failure
Uh-huh.
to the studios. But for the theatrical ending, he's like, Audrey, you okay? And she's like, I'll be fine. And she faints. And he's like, Audrey, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'll be okay. And she kind of gets back up, dusts herself off. She's like, it'll be okay. And then we get another cameo by Jim Belushi,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
who's like, hey, because they just start to reprise like suddenly Seymour, and he's like, hey kids, sorry to stop you singing there. And then I realize in that moment that wait a minute, all the singing was practical in this.
what do they call it when it's like actually in the movie?
Diegetic.
Yeah, all the singing was diegetic. I think it's just a meme. I don't think all the singing was diegetic.
No, I want to imagine that every day at 4 p.m., 5 p.m., everyone in Skid Row sings downtown. Everyone. They're just like, it's that time. Ah, God damn it, Margaret. All right, give me my pants. Where the food is, slop. And he throws it out the That has to be the thing. But then Seymour realizes that's what Audrey wants. He wants to proliferate and take over the world because alien monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So he sets a plan out. Seymour is going to kill one last person. Well, one last plant. Audrey too, and goes in.
With his fire axe.
With his fire axe. And Audrey too was like, motherfucker, really?
You're really trying to come at me with that?
You know what I am, right? I'm a mean green mother from outer space.
Mhm.
And he's bad.
Mean green
and
red.
bad.
And
mean green bad.
This is the song that... This is probably the longest song in the movie
Yeah.
on the reel.
Mhm.
But it also is the one that got nominated for an Oscar. And I think probably got nominated for an Oscar because all that puppetry work,
Oh yeah.
all the time that probably went into like performing that.
It's
Also,
a
the
good
numbers
song,
fucking
too.
great.
It's
Yeah.
the most impressive song of the
Oh,
movie.
easily. And also when you start to realize this, I found this out. So because of it's all practical puppet effects, they had to film it at 16 frames a second.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you played it back, everything looked to move fast and natural.
Uh-huh.
But you also think about it is that Rick Moranis sang against this thing for like Feed Me Seymour, Supper Time, all this
Uh-huh.
other stuff. So Rick Moranis actually had to sing like and mouth and pantomime at a different pace,
Mhm.
slower to match it.
Really?
And then he redubbed all of his singing lines later to then match it to Levi Stubbs' singing lines. So this movie took so much fucking work.
God damn.
Could you imagine you're one of the puppeteers or you're Rick Moranis and you're just like, all right, and you just try to go into it, but you have to go into fucking Feed Me at like half speed.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were going back and it's like, well, I did this on set for like 3 weeks. I can do this. And then now you have to double time it and redo the entire thing again. That sounds fucking awful.
This is some like Fred Astaire level of dedication.
Oh, yeah. Which again, Rick Moranis, Fred Astaire, like right there, like cinema history.
Why you gotta be so mean to Rick Moranis?
No. On the real though, like Rick Moranis is great in this movie.
Oh,
He's so good in this movie.
He's so good in this movie, and I think it's a thing where like I can't think of anyone else who could have played this role.
No.
That's his.
Well, the other thing is like 86. Like who else are you gonna get? Martin Short? Like no one's gonna be this kind of like down on like no one's gonna be this kind of like goofy, geeky, putsy, and still lovable.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like the nerd character archetype, right? Like that's like the typecast character. It's like, oh, we're gonna cast Rick Moranis as kind of this like down on his luck or nerdy type, right?
Yeah.
He is the physical embodiment of Milhouse Van Houten from Simpsons.
Mhm.
Yes.
But like fucking Christ, this guy's a great leading man.
Mm-hmm.
He's like very charismatic. He's very charming, and when he belts out like suddenly Seymour, it's like, man, this guy's good. This guy's fucking good.
You gotta give it to him.
You gotta give it to him. But we get Mean Green Mother from Outer Space. This gets nominated.
Mean Green Bad.
I'd be careful when I say the name of the song, don't I? But this gets nominated for best music, and the movie also gets nominated for best special effects. Loses them both.
Mhm.
I don't know how it lost special effects.
Uh,
Dean's about to explain it.
So, there was a man that made a film that year. He is a man that doesn't make mistakes when he makes a movie. Mr. James Cameron. 1986,
Aliens.
Aliens. You're like the fucking
That
one
son
movie.
of a bitch.
the man couldn't have just one less Oscar. Just one less. Also,
Filmed at the same studio at the same time.
Really?
like
Side by side.
across the street.
Wow.
Or like not even across the street, like across the pathway.
like whatever avenue or whatever
Yeah.
they use.
Yeah, if you opened up the stage doors, Frank Oz looked outside and just saw James Cameron there, probably chain smoking, being like, "I fucking hate these English bastards, fuck all of you."
And it cost more to make Little Shop than it did Aliens.
It did.
Really?
Yeah, I think
man.
Aliens was like 18, 15,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, dude, like they put so much goddamn money into Little Shop. That's why when it like flopped, it was a huge blow.
Mm-hmm.
But the also Mean Green Mother from Outer Space, Levi Stubbs performs that live at the Oscars. It's one of the coolest fucking things ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, it's fucking great
It's
because
badass.
he's up there and he's going hard as a motherfucker.
I take it that you can still watch this
Oh,
somewhere.
you can still watch
Yeah.
this on YouTube,
Mhm.
easily available, but it loses to a song from Top Gun,
Oh, I see.
Take My Breath Away,
Yeah.
Take my breath away.
which I don't think is that good.
No,
Mean
Mean
Green
Green
is
is
the one.
better.
Dude, watching Little Shop is literally me being like, there's like 4 songs in here that could be Oscar nominated.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
fucking like too easily. All of them are better than Take My Breath Away. All of them.
Yeah.
But Seymour manages to fight and defeat Audrey after Audrey 2 pulls down the entire fucking
Yeah, it pulls
shop
the
on
building
him.
down, and then Seymour takes like a broken electrical cable and sticks it to Audrey too,
And Audrey 2's like, well, shit.
and explodes into like the Death Star exploding effect.
It
He just
looks
disappears, and there's like the exploding effect.
Okay.
It looks like something out of Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
It does.
It's
It
so fucking
100% does. And here's the thing. Like, watching this, it's like there's so much money put into it. And you can tell, like, the last section is like, oh, well. You can tell, like, the last section of the movie is, like, maybe a little cheaper,
Mhm.
but it kind of goes with it. Like, that explosion at the end, I'm like, yeah, that's some Roger Corman explosion shit. They probably lit a firework and was like, all right, superimpose it. Good enough. Perfect.
Well, it's literally the same effect that they used to
Yeah.
explode the
It's
Death
literally-
Star.
it-
literally the same.
I wouldn't
Stock explosion.
I wouldn't be surprised if they literally like watched Star Wars. Frank Oz was Yoda. He was like, I got an in with Lucas. Hey, Luke, can we steal that effect? George Lucas was like, anything for you,
No,
master.
Lucas was probably like, no, that's a stock effect. You can just go get it.
You can just go get it. He's like, I found it. Here, it's a little dusty.
Here's the number for it to go get it from the studio.
Oh, and they finally win, and we get the nice, beautiful ending with Seymour and Audrey. Somewhere that's green. It's real pretty, and they're all like singing and whatnot. And what's in the garden?
A little baby, Audrey. Too.
A little baby, Audrey the Third.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just cuts and it's credits, and it's fucking great.
So
It
good.
is.
It's so good. It's so good. But
Or we have the version that Dean sent to me, the director's cut.
oh no, did I send you the director's
You
cut?
did,
Oh,
so I had to
sorry.
go find the ending to it to kind of, because I'm watching this and I'm like, oh shit, it got really dark. So we have, Audrey taking over.
Isn't also the director's cut in black and white or something?
No, it's a color.
Oh no, it's in color.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, that was a thing because the OG version of it that got released, because I think they released it as an alternate ending or something on a DVD thing, and it was black and white.
Oh, I see.
And, Frank Oz was like, where's the color version? And the producer's like, oh, we never had one. And he's like, I fucking shot a color version. And they're like, oh, okay. And they recalled all the DVDs. So if you have that version of Little Shop, apparently that's very expensive now.
That's the version we have.
Yes, it's very expensive now.
Really? Is it?
Yeah, because that's that one with that specific alternate ending. That's like the first run DVDs, and they all got recalled.
Really?
Yeah, so there's not that many of them around. I think
That's weird.
Yeah,
I never knew that.
if they weren't like beat up, then I think it'd be fine.
Oh, okay, ours is beat the fuck up.
It is very beat the fuck up. That was an every weekend kind of movie as a child. So, but how does the sad ending go?
Oh, well, we have Audrey 2 taking over. And they want to mass produce Audrey 2 because who wouldn't want their own Audrey 2? And I love all the stock footage of people running to the markets and trying to buy their Audrey 2. The cashiers can't handle them. People are just taking them. And then Audrey 2 proceeds to take over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Audrey 2s are just popping out of walls. They're showing up on the Liberty statue. It is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking out my trash yesterday, and since we've been having a lot of rain here in California, weeds are just popping up out of the cement around my house, and I'm like, oh god, it's Audrey 2.
They're coming for me.
They're coming to get you.
Audrey
They're coming
2
to
is just
get
going
me.
to burst through one of the walls of my house.
Well, you have to think about it this way. Audrey 2 is not a plant. It's an alien.
It's a mean green mother.
From outer
They were
space.
filming aliens across the street from
They
Alien.
were, yeah.
But just by a different name.
I know.
It happens. It's spooky.
It
Two
means
alien
something.
movies.
Body snatchers are around us.
Yeah.
Skinwalkers.
Jesus.
Just joking.
But I mean, seeing that ending, it just shows, the genius of the people that worked for Jim Henson.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, yeah, they're puppets, obviously, but they're scary when you see them, popping up and they're, destroying everything. And then you get that great shot where it just breaks through the screen at the end. And it's just very Muppets. It's a great movie.
It is a very great movie. I'm curious though. So the endings, right?
Yeah.
Because there's the two endings. The sad ending, which goes into this being kind of a Greek tragedy. Because the whole movie is set up like this, right? Seymour, he's flawed. He's trying to win the affection of a woman, and he's going to kill to receive it. And he gets to the top, and then he falls as low as he can by not being able to keep her, right? But it's also a thing where it's like the good ending is like, well, we don't want Audrey to die.
Exactly.
We like Audrey. So it's like, which is the better ending in your opinion?
I like the good ending.
The happy ending?
Yeah, the happy ending.
Who doesn't want a happy ending?
This is probably why it tested like at 13%.
I mean, oh shit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just a thing where it's like it's better for the characters, right? Because it's like Seymour's killing people, but he's killing people who are like not good people.
Yes.
And he doesn't really kill anybody. He more like sets up people to die. And
he plans to, but doesn't end up killing the doctor. And then he doesn't plan on killing Mushnik. I mean, Mushnik pulled on him first. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Mushnik drew on me first. It was self-defense.
It was self-defense. I mean, I didn't even kill him. The plant did.
Exactly.
What are you going to do, arrest the plant?
I already killed the plant. But you killed the plant? It's a plant. You can't put me in jail for killing a plant. Damn it, he's right.
Damn it, he's right.
So, but yeah, I think the good ending is like way better just for the fact that Audrey lives, and I think you want Audrey to like have the happy ending. You want her, somewhere that's green. You want her to have the happy ending because she's the one that you're like, yeah, Seymour is your lead, but I'm really invested in the emotional arc of Audrey, right? But,
also, in the happy ending, we do get the line of "I'm gonna bust your ball."
Oh, so good, so good. Oh man, this movie is fucking great.
It's really good.
It's also one of those movies where I'm like, I don't think you could make this again, right?
No, because it's all the practical puppetry work that goes into it. That it's just way too much nowadays. Way too much.
Yeah, I mean, this was almost remade. Okay, in January of 2020, it was.
We have to describe the look I just gave you to the audience.
Randy looked like like between tears and anguish.
Absolute disgust. Like the meme where it's the guy on the news going absolutely disgusting. That's the look I'm giving.
Oh god. But So 2020, it was announced that they were going to be remaking Little Shop of Horrors. They had a cast locked in. It was Taron Egerton. He played Elton John in the Rocket Man movie. He was the lead in Kingsman, and he was going to play Seymour. Okay. Audrey was going to be played by Scarlett Johansson. And Audrey 2...
Sorry.
Oh, God, I feel so bad. I think it was Billy Porter? Idol? God, it's Billy something.
I don't think it was Billy Idol.
I don't think
Billy
it was
Zane.
I don't.
Billy Zane.
I feel so awful because it is like an actual like singer. Like, God, he's been in a bunch of things and I just cannot remember his name. I feel awful now. But like that was your cast for Little Shop of Horrors. But January of 2020, the Rona hits and it stopped pre-production cold. And then eventually, it kind of basically sat in hell for a long time. And then in 2022, they officially said, no, we're not going to remake it. And I'm like, I feel the Lord himself literally cast Rona upon the earth and said, you shall not remake Little Shop of Horrors. One of the pure things I've created on this earth. That's what I feel. That's what I feel.
And then taking it way back to when they were first making this movie, David Geffen originally wanted Spielberg to produce this movie and wanted Scorsese to direct the movie.
Wait, what?
I saw this. I saw this. Oh, God.
The French toast?
It's like this was insane because this is 86, right? So Spielberg is literally like, I've just made E.T. I am a god of Hollywood. I've made more money than any of you motherfuckers alive can even dream of. And then you have Martin Scorsese. 86 Martin Scorsese. He's still pumping out bangers.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? Raging Bull already came out, Oscar nominated.
Yep.
I think King of Comedy has come out at this point. I think he's revving up to start doing like Cape Fear in a few years. Like that, Scorsese, top of his game. And I'm like, I don't think Scorsese could have made a better movie than this.
No. It doesn't fit his vibe. I mean, Mushnik would have been so much more sleazy, but
you'd have been like Mushnik, maybe, but like Robert De Niro as Seymour, I don't know.
No, you get Robert De Niro.
Mushnik would have been Joe Pesci.
Joe Pesci.
Yeah. Joe Pesci is
De Niro as the doctor.
Okay. Robert De Niro is Scrivelli, right? Then you have DDS. Doctor. And then you have Joe Pesci playing Seymour, all right?
Playing Seymour?
No, let me cook. Let me cook.
Mushnik.
Let me cook.
These no. Come out burnt.
No. Mushnik, you get you get fucking oh God, I'm trying to you get fucking Jerry Lewis to play Mushnik.
Jerry Lewis.
He was in King of Comedy. They were in on it. Okay, and I'm saying to think.
May as well pull Dean Martin into this.
Dean, did you take your meds?
Sorry, I'm trying to cook here. But yeah, like I'm trying to think what a Martin Scorsese
You're
Little Shop would
burning the
look.
roast, okay? Pesci needs to be Mushnik.
Pesci needs to be Mushnik. But who would? I want that on a T-shirt. Pesci should have been Mushnik. But like, I'm just trying to think like fucking what would a Scorsese version of this look like?
But
of course
after
you're thinking
this,
about that.
John Landis was also attached to direct for a while.
Oh God,
Who's John Landis?
he did American Werewolf in London. He also did American Fried Movie. He's done like a lot of stuff. He also did the sad parts in Twilight Zone the movie, the one where people died in. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was a huge thing, but he also did
Oz though. Oz is hands down the only person that could have actually directed this because of his work with puppetry.
Yes, especially if they actually were like, we're going to do like puppetry real deal shit. He's the only one that they could have gotten to do this.
I mean, could they really have done that much without puppetry here?
If they tried to do opticals or something like that, maybe. I mean, it would have had to have been because it's 86. They're not getting a computer.
Quite CG yet.
Yeah, it would still be another like 6 years before Spielberg does Jurassic Park, and that's like, okay, anything in your head you can put on the screen, all right? So 86, it's gonna be a puppet or it's gonna be stop motion. If it's stop motion, like it's not gonna work, right? Like so it has to be puppetry. I really think that this would have probably just been a failure, like just on production level alone, if you get anyone other than Frank Oz to do this. Yep. But yeah, God, this movie's so good. Why is it that this movie is like just like fucking works?
I don't know, because it's like
it's goofy as fuck.
It's really goofy. The themes in it are pretty dark, but overall the movie seems almost lighthearted.
I'm gonna give Dean's favorite answer. It's lightning in a bottle.
It's lightning in a bottle.
Well, that is basically the theme of this month, really.
Yeah.
Phantom of the Paradise, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Little Shop of Horrors, right? Phantom of the Paradise, it's like cult classic, but that fandom is like diehard. It's focused in Winnipeg, Canada, but they still do a fucking festival every
50
year.
years later, and people are still hyped for it and still celebrating it.
Still celebrating it.
I mean, we watched it in like a pop-up drive-in.
Yeah, and it was a packed drive-in.
It was good. I mean, it's just a good, like, fun movie.
And it's directed by Brian De Palma, so it looks fucking great.
Yeah.
Then you have Rocky Horror Picture Show, which the cult that will never die.
Never.
It like Rocky Horror fandom will outlive Christianity. Mark my words.
I think Rocky Horror might have the second biggest cult following in all of cinema history.
Oh God! What's the first? Are you gonna say Scientology?
No,
I don't want to get sued.
The dude.
Oh,
Dudism, because isn't there like a
there's a literal religion
Yeah.
based around the
There
dude
is.
from The Big Lebowski. God damn, that is pretty hardcore too. But that's the thing, right? And even with Little Shop of Horrors, like failed on release, but the critics loved it. Like even Roger Ebert was like,
Oh, really?
every critic,
Oh, yeah.
all of them, all the critics who like gave the review always did the whole thing of like, oh, it's like kind of goofy, and like the third act is like you can tell it's kind of cheap and blah blah. Like I don't know if this is like true cinema, but goddamn, I loved every minute of it. You should go see it. Give this movie money, 5 stars. Like all of them
Even
tried.
Roger Ebert's?
Roger Ebert gave it like 4 stars.
What?
And he even went to go see the original stage play.
That's like a weird thing, because usually we get the thing of like, oh, critics don't like these kind of campy tongue-in-cheek movies, but like you see the work on screen and you're like, how do I not give this movie credit?
Yeah.
And
because you can tell it took a lot of
it
work.
took so much goddamn work. But it's like all these movies are lightning in a bottle. Like they came out at the right time, the right place, and they just resonated and they just vibed. Rocky Horror resonated like probably the hardest, but I feel like this movie resonates really well, and it's also just, I think it's like the best movie of the month, honestly. Like the best made, honestly. Like just best production, best like filmmaking, everything put together.
I suppose so.
Because I mean, Rocky Horror also had a really small budget. And I mean, we have Phantom of the Paradise.
Which had like a micro budget comparatively.
So, we're seeing these through the decades as they go on.
Yeah. But the real question, bated breath. Best song, worst song?
Best song is going to be Feed Me. Worst song is The Meek Shall Inherit?
It's a pretty quick one.
Yeah.
It's poppy, but it's not catchy.
Yeah, I don't really remember much about the song, honestly. I mean, I kind of remember some of the visuals, but it doesn't really stick with you.
It's the only song that doesn't have like a strong chorus you can sing along to.
Which, I mean, I guess they couldn't all be that way.
But when every other song is like that, where they're all like earworm bangers,
I'm going Suddenly Seymour and Meek Shall Inherit.
Yeah, Meek Shall Inherit is just easily the worst one.
Yeah, yes, Meek Shall Inherit. It's the worst one. I'm still like Skid Row is like such a. It's so good. It's like the second song of the goddamn movie, and it's like.
I mean,
I guess we can't beat up
it's like
that.
the first song that takes place in the movie.
Yeah.
You could say.
Yeah, it lays the groundwork of what it is, and like Feed Me Seymour, great villain song.
It also inspired a board game.
Oh, it did.
It did.
Did it?
Is it Hungry Hungry Hippos?
Well, kind of, but it was its own game called Feed Me.
Oh, really?
Wait, real? Oh, shit.
Yeah, where you would feed the Venus flytrap marbles.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Neat.
But yeah, Feed Me, great villain moment, a great character stuff. Suddenly Seymour, great love song. Skid Row, great like setter. Man, the movie's just great. It's
good.
Just wonderful. Meek Shall Inherit the Earth, take it or leave it.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's basically like version 2.0 of what's the other song that's like basically the same theme of Some Fun Now. Some Fun Now.
Yeah, it's almost
basically like maybe they should have done like a reprise.
That's what I'm thinking. It probably should have just been like more of some, because Some Fun Now is like a really fun, light, almost like kind of like calypso-y bits of it, because there's like a drum thing going on. Steel drum. It's really good. But yeah, that is Little Shop of Horrors. Any other thoughts?
I have one boo fact.
Oh.
And it
Please.
is musical related.
Of course.
So Somewhere That's Green, one of the big songs we talked about early, inspired Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid.
Really?
That's something we were totally glossing over. So, I think it's Alan Menken in this.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
He goes on to do all the music for the Disney Renaissance.
Oh.
Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast,
I think Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hunchback. Hercules.
Hercules. He does.
God damn.
Yeah,
Man,
that's
just straight up banger.
yeah, and that's like a thing. Like after this gets released or whatever, because I think the Disney, like, when did Little Mermaid come out? 1990?
89.
89. So this comes out in 86. So Disney, and it takes a couple years to do these animated movies, because I think Disney was legitimately going to close production on all their movies.
It
or the
was the
animated movies.
Renaissance that saved them.
Yeah, because they were like, we're going to do one more, and if it's successful, we'll keep doing it. And I think it was The Great Mouse Detective was the one movie that overperformed enough for them not to close the studio. And then they were like, okay, we're going to do a movie musical.
We're going to do a princess movie, which happens to be The Little Mermaid, which, just explodes.
Yeah, and...
So they must have recruited him right after this to do Little Mermaid.
Which, fucking, like,
I mean, if I was a studio looking for somebody to do the music for my musicals, and I heard, and I sat down and I watched Little Shop of Horrors, I'd be like, get this man in here.
All the songs are catchy earworms. One of them, they were like, this could be a radio hit if we change one line. And I'm like, and he's like, no, fuck you. One word. And he's like, no, fuck you. No, fuck you.
No, fuck you.
Fuck you, pay me.
Fuck you, pay me.
It's great. And fucking, this movie is like really good. It's so good. And then the movie that Frank Oz makes after this is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and he goes off into the ether. Yep. Yeah, I think he's still directing too, or he's still working. Well, he's still acting because he's still the voice of Yoda now. But I think he still directs movies and things like that. But it's been a while.
Does he do any work with the Muppets still?
Oh yeah, he's still the voice of Fozzie Bear, and I think a bunch of other ones. Like he might be the voice of Gonzo too.
That's cool.
But yeah, the more you know. When you make Little Shop of Horrors and everyone just remembers you as a Muppets guy.
Well, I mean, is it canon that Audrey 2 is a Muppet?
It should be, goddammit. I imagine Skid Row. This is where Oscar the Grouch comes from.
Yeah, this is
yes.
That's why he's angry, because when that guy kicked the can during Skid Row, that was Oscar.
Yep.
That's it. We nailed it, boys. Well, yeah.
Can I do one more boof fact? Because I found a great one.
Okay.
It's a lie. It's a total fib.
She's making it up on the spot.
It's not. I swear. I promise. I wish.
Have you checked with Snopes? I was joking.
Jesus.
No, not yet. But Oren Scrivello, DDS, he was almost somebody else.
Oh.
Whomstava.
Gene Wilder.
Oh. Okay. When we were talking before, where it's like, how do you get anyone else other than Ellen Greene to play, or how do you get anyone other than
Seymour?
Yeah. But fucking Gene Wilder, as fucking
that could have worked.
That could have worked. Oh man, this would have been 86. Gene Wilder, he would have been a little old.
I mean, Blazing Saddles was what, 70?
74.
74.
So this would have been
was Willy Wonka.
It's like 76. So this is like 10 years later. So he would have probably been he'd be in his 40s, maybe even his early 50s.
He'd be maybe a little too old.
Just like a hair. Granted, we're saying this, and I think Steve Martin in this is still like almost 40. I don't know.
Yeah, they dyed his hair black.
They dyed his, exactly, Oh.
Wait, there's even more.
Please.
It's gonna tie into this one.
Okay.
This is the last one.
Last one.
Okay, so Oren Scrivello, DDS.
Correct.
Dr. Oren Scrivello.
Doctor. Almost could have been someone else. Someone that we talked about this month.
Fucking what?
Someone turned down the role. It was Tim Curry.
Wow.
I knew you were about to say that. I knew you were about to say that when you're like, somebody we've talked about. I was like, fuck, it's Tim Curry.
It's always Tim Curry.
He declined.
Oh my god. This also low key kind of feels like a Tim Curry role, where he gets to be a little slimy and a little tongue in cheek.
Because we have him in Muppet Treasure Island.
That's right.
So he works great with a Muppet. One of the greatest films of all time. It's Kino. I can't wait to talk about that.
I think, no joke, I think Muppet Treasure Island is one of the best adaptations of the book Treasure Island, oddly enough.
It has one of the greatest songs, Cabin Fever.
Sure.
Masterpiece.
Sure.
I haven't seen Muppet Treasure Island in like 2 decades.
I've never seen it.
Oh, you gotta watch it. It's on Disney Plus.
Sure.
I used to have the computer game.
Wow.
Oh, man.
I think I still have it. It might be in my garage.
What
That's
is
like
it?
us talking about like Pajama Sam or some shit.
Oh, my fucking homie Pajama Sam.
Mhm.
My mom, we talk about Muppet Treasure Island every now and then. She's like, low key, I'd wait for you to go to sleep and I'd play the game. I'm like, no wonder it was always a little different when I came on there. I was like, wait, I wasn't here last time.
Oh God.
Lord.
Oh. So, anything else for Little Shop of Horrors? Any last words, thoughts?
No, it's just a really good, wholesome. I mean, even though it has some dark tones to it.
Yeah.
It's still a movie you can show a kid.
Yeah, you could
It's
probably show
movies
a kid
we
this.
saw as kids.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Maybe a little. Maybe I'd wait a little longer than our parents waited for us.
God.
But I mean, it's still good. The music is so catchy. You can definitely listen to the soundtrack
Oh yeah.
by itself and have a good time. It's
That's what I was telling Dean the other day. It's in my Apple, playlist.
Mhm.
It's like I haven't seen the movie in its entirety since the 90s, but it's like I hear the music more
Mhm.
often. So it's just one of those, they're earworms. They stick with you, and even when you're not thinking about them, it'll pop in your head suddenly. You're like,
Oh yeah.
This is a great movie. I love it. But that is it for Little Shop of Horrors, and that is it for
Musical
March. Cult classic campy musicals of March. So what is next month's theme?
Next month is a new theme for us here. Hopefully we can try to bring it back again. We're going to be talking about Hollywood epics.
That's right, the biggest movies ever made in the smallest town in the world, Hollywood. And we're going to start off with some real classic Hollywood epics.
Very classic. We're talking about Cleopatra.
So it's going to be real big. And then Randy will eventually return to talk about another giant fucking movie.
But we can't spoil that just yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
no spoilers.
No
Son of a-
spoilers.
No spoilers. But if you wanted to listen to that, where can they go?
Well, if you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, and YouTube.
You can go to our YouTube channel, The Film Vault. That is The Film Vault on YouTube, where you can like, comment, and subscribe to the video versions of this podcast and listen and watch our backlog. But if you wanted to hear what we're doing, you can find our social media at
The Film Club Podcast on Instagram, where we post daily stories, upcoming episodes, and random adventures we go on.
And Randy. Would you like to plug anything that's not going to get us canceled?
Sure, I'll plug something that's probably not going to get you canceled, but I can't confirm nor deny that. But I've recently been watching a lot of VTubers, and I really like Lucy Pyre's music.
All right. I'm far too much of a boomer to know what that is, but go listen.
Yep, it's good music.
But with that,
We'll see you next week at the Film Club.
have a good week, everybody.
Take care.